This is Washington. Well, this is the backside of Washington. And this is Washington. That's Washington. This is Washington's roadmap to success. Hey, buddy. We started off this session by talking about exercise. Because he has some reactivity issues with other dogs, he doesn't get exercised a ton. He gets exercise playing around, roughhousing with his guardians, and he's got a buddy that comes over and he gets to play with her. It's the only dog he really gets along with, and he's known her since he was a puppy. So I talked about some creative ways of exercising. One of them is a snuffle mat, feeding him out of a snuffle mat. Another one would be feeding him out of a treat dispensing ball. Scent games. Using the dog's nose is very draining. That's why feeding him doesn't seem like a normal form of exercise. But feeding him out of those things helps him. He has to use his nose to find the food, and then he also has to earn his food, which boosts his self-esteem and confidence. It slows down his heating. Sit. That's passive training. We'll talk about that in a second. That's okay. You don't have to. This is just for you guys. I'm afraid if you do it much more, the camera's going to fall. All right. So basically, other things you can do is playing fetch. Now, the guardians have been taking things away from him. So what we want to do is we want to throw the object. When I throw it, I say fetch. When the dog picks it up with his mouth, I say fetch. And then I hold the treat out. And when they drop it, I put the treat in their mouth and I say the word fetch. He's a little bit odd with when I hand it to him this way. He doesn't like to take it. And you guys have him as a puppy? Yeah. Maybe just a little bit residual for what we're doing here. So basically, the other thing you can do is you can find some stairs to do that doggy stairmaster that I mentioned to you. That's the only place I usually recommend a retractable lead. Now, because he is lunging on walks, if you guys want, we can set up, let me know afterwards, maybe at the end of January, we can set up like 4 consecutive sessions, 1-hour sessions where we work and meet at a park somewhere and teach him to not pull and lunge on the leash. It just takes 4 1-hour sessions, and then he pretty much learns. He's just got to stay next to you, and he's not walking in a perfect heel, but he's not lunging for things, which is really nice to have when you have a dog like this. That's big. And reactive. So exercise is really important. You might want to keep that exercise journal for a month, and remember, write the time and fresh page for each day. Write the time and how many fetches, the time and how long the walk was, the time and how much you used the laser, the scent games, snuffle mat, whatever, as well as if he barked at the mailman, if he knocked something over, anything dog-worthy, behavior-wise noteworthy. And at the end of the day, give him a letter grade A through F. If it's anything other than an A, the next day, give him instead of doing up, downs, and stairs 3 times, maybe do it 4 times. Instead of doing 25, maybe you do 50 repetitions or whatever it is. Now, when he comes up to you and whines and whimpers like that, that's a demand for attention as well. So make him do something. Go to that petting with a purpose. So tell him to sit or lie down. Remember, and I'll talk about those separately here in a sec. I want to stay kind of a linear order. So basically, exercise is really important. Finding the right combination of exercises will pay big dividends. And again, if there's a kid in your neighborhood that you see that rides a skateboard or uses rollerblades, you can hire them. They're trustworthy to take him out dog skiing. Let me know. I'm happy to go over some tips with that person. But it's a wonderful way to burn energy because it's super duper fast and it's fun for the dog. Okay, we also talked about rules. We have talked about dog psychology and how dogs learn. Remember, anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're specifically rewarding. This includes unbalanced states of mind. So if he's nervous or anxious, you can lay your hand on him and let him know he's not letting me do it now. And that's also a good point. If somebody reaches to pet him, they should always reach like this far and just stop about 1 inch or 2 in front of his nose. If he backs up, lowers his head, or turns his head aside, he's saying, I don't want you to pet me. And the more that people pull their arm back, the more confident he will be around strangers because they listen to him. If they pet him anyways, eventually one day he might nip at him, and then if they back away, he's going to start nipping a lot more people. So it's just we want him to feel empowered that I don't have to nip. All I got to do is turn my head aside. My humans will make sure that that person leaves me alone. Also remember when you're petting him, if he rolls over and gives you his belly, right away stop petting him. If he puts his paw on your arm, immediately stop petting him. And don't wait for his paw to get here. Start doing it when his paw is leaving the ground and only 1 inch or 2 off the ground. Now, anything your dog is doing when you pet is what you're reinforcing. That's passive training. We'll talk in a minute. But remember, anything that he does in your presence that you don't specifically disagree with is the same thing as agreeing. Sit. So if he's barking and you don't disagree, you're saying, I'm okay with you barking. And if he's barking at you or trying to paw at you or do something to get attention from you, that's the time I would ignore him. But any other time, I would directly or immediately react to it. I forgot to pet you for laying down, didn't I? Thanks for reminding me. I appreciate that. But we have watchwords, which we'll talk about in a sec. Now remember, rewarding him by breaking a rule is very confusing for dogs. Consistency, repetition, and good timing is how dogs learn. You have 3 seconds to correct a reward. And rewarding him by breaking a rule is going to cause him to want to break that rule more and more. It's going to work against you. Now, these sessions, typically dogs like him have a couple days where it almost gets worse before it gets better. So, hey, I tell you, you just reset, didn't you? Sit. And I have a client, I have a puppy class instructor, the dog will go sit in front of her. If she doesn't see it, it will resit. And then resit again, kind of like what he was just doing there. So make sure you pet him for that. We'll talk about petting for the purpose of passive training in a minute. Okay, so for, let me see. Remember to disagree immediately right away. There have been a number of times during the session where the guardians were a little bit tardy in their movements. 3 seconds is your maximum, but your goal should be 1/3 of a second. And there's a big difference between rewarding a dog with 1/3 of a second to do something and 3 seconds. So get there as quickly as you can. All right, we also talked about rules. So the guardians have some good rules already. Most of my clients have no rules. One of the rules is you're not allowed to be within 7 feet of a human who's eating. So you can create certain boundaries if the carpet line or things like that match up. But if you don't, you can put down painter's tape in the middle of the carpet or things like that. But just you use those escalating consequences to enforce those. Now, if you want to learn how to enforce a visible boundary, you forget how to do that. If you go to my website, doggoneproblems.com, click on dog training tips, that's where I have all these videos down, crash or whatever you want to use. And then search for invisible line. And I have a bunch of videos where I show people how to teach their dog to stay behind an invisible line. It's the stuff I showed you, but this will just be a nice refresher. Yes, you can't go straight to the horse's mouth. He went straight to the treats. He's a smarty pants. Okay, other rules. The humans are going to eat before they feed him. When his buddy is staying here for the next month, she gets to eat first. He has to stay out of the room. He's flirting with me a little bit with his butt now. And then when she gets done eating, she has to leave the room, and he gets to come in and eat. I put food in both bowls if you can. Hey, buddy. Are you gonna try to hump me a little bit? He was trying to do that a little bit earlier, only once, and he stopped. He just really wants to treat my hand. So when she's eating, he's not allowed in the kitchen. When he's eating, she's not allowed in the kitchen. And the humans who feed eat first. So that way we kind of have a nice ritual. Now, if you're gonna do the snuffle mat and the ball, I would maybe wait until she's gone for that. That might be a little bit more than you want to deal with. Okay, other rules. He has to sit before I let him out the door. Go to the door, say sit 1 time. If he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, walk away, sit down nearby, wait 1 minute, then go back and command him again, sit. Then I would open the door if he sat. If he didn't sit within 3 seconds the next time, I would walk away and sit down for 2 minutes. Next time I sit down and wait for 4 minutes, then 8 minutes. Make sure you're seated each time and in the approximate area. Kisses, that's passive training as well. So after a while, what he's gonna do is he's gonna go sit at the door as his way of saying, I'd like to go out. I do it at that door, I do it at this door as well. Now there's another video I have on my website, how to wait and an open, you just maybe type in open door. You guys have already done a version of this, but I would watch that video because you might get a couple pointers for that as well. That's kind of the next step in this progression. Kisses. Okay, let me see, other rules, should be allowed in the kitchen when you're eating food, and shouldn't be around with any of the humans. I gotta move my legs or my knees are gonna explode. But it shouldn't be allowed with any humans who is eating food, including guests. So I would have you guys use those escalating consequences. Don't have the guests use the escalating consequences. He likes to invade personal space. You can also search for personal space. I have videos on my website that go over how to use those escalating consequences to help the dog practice not invading your personal space. All right, we also talked about petting with the purpose of passive training. So if he's nudging you for attention like this is about to be a hump. See how he's humping a little bit? Sit. Now that's a Cesar Millan thing. Everybody says, oh, he's Cesar Millan. I'm not a Cesar Millan. I don't use force and punishment, but I do use the hissing sound because so many animals make a hissing sound. Dogs respond to it because it's instinctive. There you buddy, kisses. All right, so for if he's doing this, invading my personal space, and I'm petting him, I'm rewarding him for doing that. So if he invades my personal space and I want to pet him or he's nudging me, sit. So he has 3 seconds to sit. If he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, I'm not petting him. If he does sit within 3 seconds, then I'm going to pet him. Hey, let's not knock down the Christmas tree. I know I have the treats over there. Let's move him over here. That way we don't have to worry about this problem. So basically what we're going to do is when he tells me what to do, nothing happens. Leaders tell, followers ask. So when he tells me what to do, if I pet him, then I'm reinforcing that he's in charge. Instead, when he nudges me, you can't take it, no. Then I give him a counter order, sit. If he sits, I pet him under his chin. Let's get a lie down so you're not blocking. Down. Remember, treat goes in the mouth first. They hear the command word and only the command word after the treat goes in their mouth. So if he tells me what to do, I don't do what he wants. I give him a counter order, tell him to sit.
When he sits, I pet him under his chin, never over the head. Anywhere you want, just preferably, if all things are equal, pet him under his chin. And then say just the command word and pet as much or as little as you want. If he doesn't sit, he doesn't get a reward. Playing hard to get works great for dating, works great for dogs too. So use the watchword of paycheck. So if someone comes in and says paycheck to me, and I'm petting a dog that's standing, they assume that I forgot to tell him to do something. So he's got to either sit or lay down. If he's already sitting, ask him to sit here or lay down. And so if somebody comes in and I'm petting when he's standing, even if I did it right, I stop petting, I say sit, sit, you're totally blocking, that's okay. Down or down, either one. And then to say just the command word, and I pet him as much or as little as I want. One pet to an infinity number of pets. After a while, we're really buddies now, no more humping. No, I see where you're trying to go with that. He's trying to dominate me a little bit to get the cookie. So evidently I'm going to go back on my knees. There we go. So that's a little play. So basically, if he tells me what to do, nothing happens. But if I tell him what to do and he does it, he gets rewarded. That's going to give him motivation to want to do the things that I want, and he'll start coming and sitting in front of you to prepay for attention. He really likes butt scratches. When he does, reach over and pet him under his chin, say whatever the command word is. Pet him once to an infinity number of times. Now, passive training, and even if you want to pet him, he still has to do something to earn it. Sit. You look like you're about to take a dump on me. Sit. Passive training is waiting for him to do the behavior they want organically. Every time he comes to you, pet him and say come. Every time he sits, pet him on his chin, say sit. Lays down, pet him and say crash or chill, whatever the word is. Name all your individual toys, individual names. All balls can be balls, all bones can be bones. Call this one octopi. And name all the rest of them funny names. And every time he brings it to you, then you can say that command word. Now, if he likes to play tug of war, which is a nice way to burn some energy, go ahead and play with him. There's nothing wrong with that. But if he ever touches you with his teeth, you can go, ah! I drop it and the game stops. Developing good bite inhibition, one of the most important things we teach dogs. He's got pretty good bite inhibition, but occasionally he does mouth a little bit. You can't pet him or not disagree with that, because if he does that to the wrong person, he's like, well, I do this with my guardian. I'm going to grab the mailman's hand. Mailman kicks your dog, that might be a fight. So we don't want him to practice anything he's not allowed to do with everybody, with anybody. So passive training, I say celebrate, that's my watchword for that. So if I come in the room and see someone, the dog walked up to me and I didn't see it, the guardian says celebrate. I just start petting him under his chin and say celebrate, and I say whatever he's doing. Don't ask, remember you only have 3 seconds. So petting with a purpose and passive training both work because of the principles of cumulative property. I gotta repeat it a lot. It'll take you guys about 2 months to get in the habit of doing it. Once you do, it reinforces the leader-follower dynamic, boosts his confidence, and helps him practice sitting. Let me see, we also talked about the escalating consequences. We went over structured feeding. The video above goes over how you can teach him how to go stay away from the door. And that's something I'd like you guys to practice. Really focus on this month, really practice that a lot, because this month you guys have an advantage with somebody coming by on a regular basis. That's going to be harder with both dogs. The best time to practice is when that guest dog is getting dropped off. I would ask him to leave that dog in the car, come to the door, practice this first. So you can have him come in, and once these come in, then he goes out and gets the dog. So then it becomes an opportunity for you guys to practice these things. Now, and this is really a summation of what I do as a behaviorist, is when a dog doesn't know how to behave in an activity, I ask the client, have you taught the dog how to behave? Most of the time it's no. So then what I do is I create the easiest version of that activity possible. And I put my finger on the scale as much as I can. I cheat. So I might exercise the dog ahead of time. But every time you're using exercise to help it set him up for success, he needs at least 10 minutes to recover after the exercise ends before anything else goes on. Getting in a car and driving somewhere, he needs at least 10 minutes. Don't count the drive in the car, because that's getting excited at a time as well. If you don't, he'll almost perform worse. Create it, and just kind of like I showed in the video here, going through each, make the easiest version possible, set him up for success, and then break it down in individual steps. And first step is reaching for the handle. I might only reach this far. We think of going all the way to the end. So remember, don't do that. Just reach a little bit. He gets excited or does what you don't want, you pull your arm back. Also, and then break down each individual step and practice each step individually until he does all the individual steps by themselves the way you want. Then start stringing them together and work your way back to the real world situation. Let me see, what else? On walks, remember to let him sniff. Sniffing burns more energy than the locomotion of a walk. So when you're walking, think, I'm going to walk for 10 minutes this way. If I got a 20-minute walk, then cross the street and walk back the other for fresh sniffs on the other side of the street. Let me see. Come up with a list of the official command words. If somebody's using a different version of the word, say vocabulary. And you're like, thank you, come. We don't realize how many variants of words that we often use. I also like using the watchword of repeat or rerun if we're saying a command multiple times. And I would say Scrabble or some word that means that you're saying too many words. Remember, they hear the first word we say. So when it comes to me, I want to say come, not good come or not come. Oh, what a good dog you are. That oh, what a good dog you are isn't bad, but it doesn't help anything. And it'd just be better if you just get in the habit of just saying come, and then just let your fingers do the talking and just pet him as long as you want to say, I really appreciate this. And come up with the watchwords for all the weird stuff that he does. When he drinks water, if you want to call that Merlot. And every time he takes his food, we're going to call it pasta. Every time when you're at the door, when he comes inside, drop a treat on the floor. So once he comes in, you say casa or house or whatever it means. So now you create a command. When he comes inside, I say casa, he runs inside, and then I would give him the treat. So at first it's to reward, and then or to entice, and then it becomes to reward. I'm trying to think, is there anything else we covered that you want me to go over? For a couple of things for Chewies, you might want to get them a water buffalo horn. They probably will outlast the dog. They're pretty expensive, but antlers and Nylabones and real bones are great. Water buffalo horns is one of my favorite things to get dogs because it usually outlasts them. Also, if there's stressful things going on, like we have a lot of construction in the area, one of my dog's favorite things to do is eat a kneecap, cow kneecap. I'm not capping anyone. So there are a lot of good high-value stores will have bully sticks, tracheas, cow cheeks, cow ears. Kneecaps are one of my dog's favorite because they get about 2 really good chews in it. First one, they pull off all the pieces, then they come back to it the next day or an hour later, and then they get the gristle. When you get done, it's a little bone, a crappy bone that's about that big. But it's really good. When they're stressed, they need to chew on things. So giving them appropriate chew things will really help. Sit. I want you to sit over here so everybody can see how handsome you are. You come back here. Sit. Hey, buddy. Come here. Sit. Well, I guess we're gonna start the way we stopped. This is Washington, and this is Washington's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.